11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific for about an hour and 90 minutes each day. Talk about 3 gun-related topics, different topics throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube, and we simulcast it at gunchannels.com, where we're watching the live comments from everybody that watches live. Also over at YouTube. When it's all over, we'll take the audio from that. We'll turn it into a podcast over on iTunes. So we encourage anybody who might be listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback on whatever platform it is you listen, so that we know where our listeners are, and it helps. That effort helps the show get recommended to more listeners. So we really do appreciate that. There are 5 hosts. 4 of us are here now. We've got Bob jumping in temporarily from Tucson. Thanks for jumping in.
Here.
Then we got Dano jumping in from Illinois. Thanks for joining.
Glad to be here as long as I have bandwidth.
And then we got Smeggy jumping in from Michigan.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Pretty good. And I'm down here in Arizona as well. And Z will join us in a bit. So today we're going to be doing episode 268. We're talking about which gun you should train with for CCW, gun magazines, the old paper periodicals for our entertainment segment of the show. And of course, today is our tactical quiz. At any point, we could have our tactical pop quiz and all of our other daily topics. Before we dig into show 268, though, we usually take a break at the beginning to see if anything interesting happened since the last show. Sounds like Bob was on an adventure that he did not document at all, so we'll document it here.
Yeah. I found a Ruger 1022 stainless steel laying in the bushes next to the path I was walking my dog on this morning. So,
Cha-ching!
I phoned the cops, man. I don't know what it was involved in. So the Pima County Sheriffs came out, picked it up. I'm gonna phone them to see if it is like not been used in a crime or anything, if I can have it back. It's been sitting there probably a year. We had to use a block of wood to get the action open.
Have it back. You saw it for 10 seconds. It's not yours.
Yeah, well, it is if it's not stolen or anything. It's lost and found.
We've all heard that possession is 9/10 of the law. Finders, keepers, losers, reapers.
Yeah, and it's stainless steel, so I figure it could be cleaned up, put a new stock on it or something, and could be used. A little beat up, but
I just don't like how you think you're entitled to it already. I hope I get it back, like you ever had it.
Well, unless they
coming here taking our guns. They took our guns.
Unless they track down the actual owner, obviously that would be the best solution. But in lieu of that, rather than the state holding on to it forever, I'd much rather have somebody be able to use it.
True that, eh? Could leave it down here as my American gun. Just put it in storage, safe deposit box or something.
Just put it back in the bushes. It'll be here next year when you come back.
Yeah, it'll be there next year. Sure it will. No, it's really odd. I mean, the dog's taking a shit, and I looked over, and there's this little bit of wood sticking out of a big clump of grass and shit, and I thought, that almost looks like a gun stock. So I went, kind of slid it out a little and went, that's a Ruger 1022. I'd better phone the cops.
So did that have a polymer stocks, wooden stock?
It had wooden stock. It had some kind of cheap-ass scope on it. Didn't have a magazine in it. Front sight was gone off it, but other than that, it didn't look that bad. Like I say, the bolt was stuck closed because we had to use a block of wood to tap it open, but I imagine it could be put back into function pretty easy. I just wonder why it was, what it was doing, like 20 feet or maybe 15 feet off the road, just kind of laying under the knocked down grass.
Yeah, I mean, if it fell off the back of a truck, literally, I would expect it to be on the side of the road, not in the bushes.
Yeah. It's like about throwing distance, eh?
Yeah. Now, if you guys had snow down there, I would say, well, maybe the snowplow pushed it up and into the bushes, but that's not possible.
No. And it's kind of just a gravel road that kind of runs around the edge of the trailer park, eh? So
Well, that's county. Maybe somebody was hunting.
Yeah, well, it's like right in between the RV park and the truck stop. So,
I'm thinking someone was out there squirrel hunting. They got attacked by a chupacabra, and they dropped the gun while running away.
maybe.
Those things look pretty vicious.
Yeah.
Those chupacabra.
Yeah, aren't they mostly? Don't they mostly turn out to be coyotes that have mange or something?
According to Art Bell, transmitting from a secret location, they're a very vicious nighttime predator that has undetermined yet serious powers.
Well, I think that's an interesting subject, but I don't know, not much else.
But not why we're here.
That's why we're here for gun stuff, but I don't know what else we can talk about. Let's be added to a future segment about whether or not there's an obligation to turn in property that you find, and whether it's logical or correct to jump to the assumption that it's a crime gun, and then if Bob can even get it back, can they transfer it to a foreigner?
Well, that last part might be a good question. I think whether you should turn it in, if you're a good citizen, a moral citizen, I don't think that's a question. I think that's what separates the good from the bad right there.
Please.
Yeah, because you never know, right?
What do you mean, oh, please?
I don't necessarily agree with that you're a bad person, a bad citizen, if you find property and don't run immediately to the law enforcement and turn it in.
If you find something that is not yours, clearly it belongs to someone, not you.
All right. Well, I guess maybe it depends on, for Dano, what the level of cost, or is it some other criteria that, I mean, I'm sure if you picked up a quarter, you're not running around frantically looking for whoever dropped a quarter. There's got to be some threshold where it doesn't apply anymore.
We're not talking about, oh, I found a used gum wrapper.
Well, I used an extreme example in order to illustrate that there's got to be some line in the sand where you're not going to run to law enforcement just because you found some property. And I'm wondering if it's got to be because it's a gun, because it cost over $100. I mean, at what point do you go, oh, this is something I found?
Well, I guess that can be a discussion, but it is much more of a moral discussion than it is a gun question.
Moral. All right. Well, maybe that has something to do with physical location, but let's say you hike 3 miles up into the wilderness and you find a hunting rifle. You have a moral obligation to tell the police about it?
Yes, because it may be used in a crime and evidence. We don't know.
Well, that's why I think it would be an interesting subject. I don't find property and immediately assume it was used in a crime. Let's say you find a knife or a razor blade. Do you assume that that was used in a crime and there might be fingerprints on it? You should run to the police with this evidence?
Well, as maybe Joe Bob lost it and is looking for it, and it might be his only firearm. I'm doing something positive.
Well, all right. And I don't have a disagreement with that concept, but is the law enforcement the only way to do that? Could it be just as effective to post it on social media and at the bulletin boards at local gun shops, or ask local shops?
Traditionally and currently, law enforcement is the focal point of these types of things. And so if you lose something, you put a report, say, Joe deputy or police officer, I lost firearm XYZ. There's various reasons for doing that, or maybe reasons not. I don't know. That's another discussion. And then it's out there that, okay, and then 3 weeks later, XYZ is found. They now have a path to return it to you.
All right, so
without that, there is no path.
Maybe I'm incorrect, and I still think this is an actual topic for discussion, and it's something we do at the beginning of an already scheduled show, unless we want to change the schedule around, which is fine. But again, is our sheriff's department, is our local police department tasked with being our local lost and found now? Is that their job, to deal with property?
Yes, it has always been their job.
Crime, but I don't think that
property and property-related crimes has always been the venue of law enforcement. And government agencies.
And you're assuming crime there again.
Not necessarily crime. I mean, it may be government, as an example, creates titles to land so that it's clear who owns what.
I don't know where you're going with that, but I'm saying, what if you find a baseball bat? Do you jump to the assumption that it was a weapon used in a crime and it's...
No. If I find a baseball bat, I do not assume that, because the primary purpose of a baseball bat is to hit a baseball.
Well, the primary purpose of 10/22 ain't to go around killing people and ain't being in a crime spree. So why would you jump to that assumption? It's found on the
I
side?
didn't say. I said it might have been used. Might is the conditional term. Whether that's a 0.0001% chance or something greater, I don't know. But I know it might be.
Well, I don't know. If I'm wrong, give us feedback from the audience if it's worth talking about this one. It's easy as typing it in as a subject for a
It
future show.
certainly sounds like a good idea, bad idea. Report a found gun. Good idea, bad idea.
Yes, that's actually a good one. We can get into.
I think that's a bad idea. So I'm going to put
have serial
the
numbers.
concept of using this as a topic is a good idea, bad idea.
I submit.
Anything else happen overnight? It's Tuesday. You guys had a show last night.
Yeah, we did. Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, hit or miss.
And apparently,
Did anybody
It was a
report that
good one.
show?
With,
Did
we
anybody
actually
report
talked-
that show to the sheriffs?
you can if you want. Maybe they'll watch. That'd be cool. We talked about 1911s and basically, more specifically, 1911s in other calibers other than 45. And I don't know, Night Strike found a list of like the top 10 other calibers or whatever, and we talked about it. And it turned out we were more kind of like just talking about the calibers in general, and then be like, yeah, I guess you could use it in 1911, whatever. But I thought it was a decent chat. There's a lot of information. There were some rounds I'd never heard of before.
What was
and
the
we
most
had some people
popular?
who were familiar with it.
What was the most popular secondary caliber other than 45?
I don't know. It's like it wasn't a popularity contest, so we didn't really like rank them or anything. We just
9
went through a list and went through good and bad.
9mm.
But anyways, go back and listen to it if you're interested. It was neat. We talked about other stuff too, I think.
And speaking of hit or miss, I just wanted to throw this out here. We got an email in from Night Strike, and I just want to let him know in case he happens to be listening to it. The other hosts are not aware of this at this moment, but I'll give them the details later, that he did come forth with the information in regards to discussing South Carolina, so I had that email.
Cool.
So let's go ahead and start this show. Unless somebody has something else.
So then we're going to be talking about CCW. Should you train with specific carry guns? So I'm not sure where this one came in, if it was an email or if it was one that we brought up in a show. But how are you guys interpreting this? Should you carry with like the same guns that you, or should you train with the same guns you carry, as opposed to, I guess, either a beater or something? I don't know why you would with the, or maybe.
I guess I could see that. I was thinking just like the same type or whatever, in which case I would say, yeah, you should. But if you're saying like have two of the same gun and one's your practice gun and one's your carry gun,
maybe that
I could kind of see that being viable. I know of someone who does that with competition. He has a competition gun, and then he has a practice gun that's set up exactly the same. So he practices with the one, beats the heck out of that, and then the competition one has a lot less rounds on it, so it's more likely to, work and not fail.
What about the idea that if you're doing a shooting competition or whatever, and you're using your fancy race gun, does that really apply to your CCW?
If the manual of
applies a
arms
little
is
bit, but not a lot.
If the manual of arms is identical, then there's a lot of crossover.
I mean, when it comes down to, are you a good shooter, as far as like you have, the fundamentals down, where you can put a bullet where you want it to go under somewhat stress and in, a timely manner, then yeah, that is helpful for carry. But it's not 100%. Like you said, the race gun, I mean, it probably has a crazy trigger and maybe an RMR or something, like all sorts of other stuff that you're not going to have on your carry gun. So is it somewhat helpful? Sure, but it's not going to be exact.
Well, let's look at some of the similarities. The grip angle, the capacity. Now, if you're using an RMR, obviously that's different. If you're using traditional sights, then that is indeed the same, but of course that varies. And then also, obviously, if you're shooting production guns, then it should be identical or nearly identical. So I think that's going to vary. But yeah, I do understand the idea of, as an example, have two Glock 19s, one you train with all the time and maybe beat on, and throw it down on the ground when you need to understand, yeah, it's just a tool, that sort of thing. And yet another one that you have, enough rounds down that it's broken through. It's certainly proven itself to you, but that's the one you normally carry. I understand that train of thought. That's not necessarily the one that I use, but I understand it. I like the idea myself, and what I actually do is I train with the pistol I carry and maintain things like springs and that as they need to be replaced. But I want to know for myself, because I don't compete, exactly how my pistol and I, because we're kind of a system so together, are going to perform or fail to perform, as the case may be. Because the gun can't perform any better than me as an individual user can make it. So that's why I prefer the train with the gun you're going to carry. Next.
I like I don't know if you guys brought it up, I wasn't there, but the idea of setting up a gun similar, identical to whatever you're going to carry, and then using that in your training, so when you beat on it or just give it all that extra wear and tear. It's the same.
Smeggy was speaking to that.
Oh, I agree with Smeggy.
No, I agree with it. I understand it. It's just not the way that I happen to do things, but I definitely see its validity. It's just whenever I have enough money for another gun, there's always something else twinkling in the display case that happens to catch my eye.
Well,
Right,
and it's like no tires or something like that. Like, it's not only is it less wear and tear on your main gun or whatever, but you also have a double. Now you have two, and they're two of the same thing, so they're two competent guns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put that in the topic in the future. Is it better to have your basics before you start buying your, I don't know, your wish list or whatever for gun purchases?
Well, in my case, the pistols that I have are all concealed carry guns, and they all have the same manual of arms. The difference is in the size and single stack versus double stack, those sorts of things that can fit in different ways depending on how I dress, the time of year, that sort of thing. But the manual of arms is the same, across the board, and but it's not 100% either.
You're saying
as far as
you're talking
manual
like
of arms.
clearing a malfunction, inserting magazine, clearing right. So you're not including ergonomics, grip angles, or grip like stance or anything. Like a tiny gun requires a different grip than a larger
Correct.
gun. You're not talking sights or any of those interactions with the gun.
Correct.
Because I can see that being different. Just the difference between even a 27 and a full-size Glock or something would be a little bit different, because you're going to be gripping it different. And if you have two different sights, if you're talking the difference between like Beretta and anything else, then
Right.
you're talking
As an
potentially.
example, my Glock 26 and my Glock 19. I had my Glock 26 first, and so I got very much accustomed to having my pinky out there and really serving no role at all. So when I take my 19 out, I shoot it the same way. My pinky's not a part of holding or grasping the gun.
Really?
Yes.
You've done that at training classes before?
Yes.
Does anybody ever ask you why you got your pinky sticking out?
Yes.
Okay. So Tony's saying on the gun channel side that it's just an excuse for a second gun. How many people wear out a gun? I don't expect to wear out a gun, but the perishable parts like springs and releases and stuff that will eventually wear out with use, I'd rather put that time, I guess, on the clock in on a gun that I don't care about, and then I'm going to shoot excessively. Depending on the class, you might shoot, I don't know, hundreds of rounds easily. And then most of the time you take a training class, especially if you spend some time and money to do it, you're going to immediately go back and try to what do they say? practice some of the stuff you just learned, whatever, learn it better, and then potentially show your friends. So people that are interested, that you are going to show some of the stuff, you're going to probably put a little bit more work on that gun or time on that gun. And for those reasons, I think you're not wearing it out, but you're putting wear on it. And I'd rather leave my carry gun cherry, like closest cherry. I mean, you shoot it enough to make sure it's not going to break. But again, if you're going to put just time on a gun, might as well put it on one that's identical that doesn't get used so much.
Now, one thing I do have to say that I didn't mention is I have a spare parts kit for my Glocks, all the different springs and various little parts that can break. Now, obviously, if something breaks in the middle of the most crucial time, I might never need it, I'm screwed. But I also tear apart and do complete strips of my gun on a fairly regular basis and inspect the springs and so forth, and I have them available to immediately replace at any point in time. But I do understand if it fails in the middle of a fight, then that's really the role of a backup gun, not the role of a second gun, unless you have that second gun on you.
No, I'll acknowledge to Tony that it is not an excuse, but it is a reason to buy a second gun. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Having two identical, competent guns is 2 is 1. So that just seems normal. It just seems like what you'd want to start from. Having a single gun is just, you have a single gun until it breaks. You have 2 guns and you've got a gun.
Now, just out of curiosity, is there anything else that you apply that philosophy to?
Anything that's crucial to me living. So yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be adversarial. I'm just trying to get
car keys, knives, water. Yeah, shoes, glasses. I wear glasses. But yeah,
so you store water at your home or someplace?
Well, I mean, if I'm going out and I've got water, I've usually got more water. I don't go, I'm going to be taking a drive out to go. Well, I'm in the desert, it's a little different maybe. But even back when I didn't live in deserts, if I was going somewhere, I would have water in the vehicle, supplies in the vehicle, and then whatever I was going to be using that day or whatever. I don't know. I mean, just going out hiking in a forest preserve or something, you can go out hiking, have something happen that you didn't expect to happen, and it's very nice to be able to get back to your vehicle and be resupplied and not have to then go to someplace else to pay for resupply, especially depending on time of day and day of the week, availability of what's open.
I mean, I definitely understand that philosophy when it comes to medical things. As an example, pressure bandages, things like, you might have cut your arm, but you also might have cut your calf, things like that, where you don't just want one bandage because it's not one and done.
Right, you need one to use immediately, but then, you might want multiple more close by.
Exactly. So in the medical world, I absolutely understand that. You want is several.
So I'm adding gun logbooks to a future talk, something about what we were saying here, maybe think of that. We've never really talked about it. So in May, we're going to be talking about logbooks. Anybody out there that might be listening now that wants to participate in that, send in links or get something ready. There are a few different published logbooks out there that people can just buy. And then there's a lot of different apps now and software packages from back in the day, plus just strategies for doing a spreadsheet, Smeggy. To keep track of your firearms inventory as well as number of rounds through the gun. And I don't think we've talked about that. Log, like archiving your gun's performance and.
Gotcha.
We don't really talk about it. Figured I'd throw it out there so that if there are people that keep logs, then maybe you can think about sharing some of that with us in a future show.
Because I would definitely think that people that shoot, whether it's competitively or just for fun at long distances, and they reload for their special recipe to get a certain load a certain way, they are absolutely keeping a log.
Yeah, there's a couple people over on Gun Channel saying that they keep ammo logs and whatever.
I prefer the nut log, but we're talking. You know what I'm talking about? Or take that.
Yeah.
I do not prefer that. Just for the record.
Oh wait, you can't eat it. You could eat out the middle. You could have that cord and then eat the core out.
Yeah, but it's probably got all the like oils and stuff that would get me.
Oh, okay. Well,
You know, because if it like touches stuff. Anyways, yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't really keep a log as far as like what I shoot and whatnot, but
Now,
I'd be happy to share my reloading spreadsheet that I just made last night.
but we could trim that down to it. You know, it's also as part of this. You know, log means simply to track. And as an example, if you have magazines that you've numbered, so that if something is not feeding right, you could say, okay, that happened on number 3. And the next time you get around to number 3 again, does it feed just fine, or or it works fine again, except for magazine number 3? So it's another, you know, at its most basic level, you're still keeping a log. It's just that it might be in your head, but this is going one step beyond that.
here's the thing. We're not talking about logs now, but that is another good point of it. If you can keep track of your mags in your head, even if they're numbered, you're doing it wrong. You don't have enough mags. So shame on you. Buy more mags and get back to us in a couple of weeks when we talk about logs again. That's like saying I keep track of my ammo.
Well, I mean, but
good. That bullet
ideally,
isn't good.
the only mags you're using are the ones that are not having problems. So let's say you have 15 magazines.
No, I agree with you. I'm just saying you should have so many of them that you need a logbook to keep track of them.
Oh, gotcha.
Because yeah, you're going to get mags that give you an issue. You're going to deem it training range mag, and then you're going to maybe change a follow or deal with the lips or change a spring, and then you're going to log that, you know, mark that in your log, and then if it continues to give you shit, you sell it, and if it fixes, then it's still a range mag, but you know it's over there.
Thought you're going to say you toss it, but gotcha. It's now somebody else's problem.
Some people love the idea of an inexpensive fixer upper, right? I do, when it's not something crucial. So yeah, why not keep it? You know, a used mag will pay for at least some ammo in another mag.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I think we'll go on from this one. Then we've solved this one. People now know that they should have a second duplicate gun made exactly like their carry gun to train with.
Well, that was one of the philosophies that were presented. I don't think that was absolute across the board agreement.
I'm kind of thinking we should change the show to where we come up with something and then we just deem that the way it is, and people have to agree with it. They have to change their mind and do it the way the show came up with. And it'll be by committee, so nothing will ever be perfect. It'll always be the best we could do.
And then we could never rehash an old subject again because it's already been decided.
Exactly. We're just going to start perfecting things. Like we're going to make things crystal clear. At the end of the year, like people, they might not be right, but people have a new way of doing things. I mean, so then we'll move on to the entertainment section then.
Sure.
We're going to be talking about magazines, the old-fashioned kind of magazines we had before the internets, where you'd have to turn. It's like they took the web pages and printed them out, and then they would staple them together, and they would send them to us in the mail. And we're going to be talking about those. Before we do, we like to take a break between the first and second segment of the show every day to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. And I don't think I guess we kind of have a theme this week, perhaps. So today we're talking about Moon, autoloader, depending on if you're in the Instagrams or not. Moon's been around since the beginning, I think, and participates quite a bit in both the live chats and the rest of Gun Channels, the various projects we've done and different campaigns and things. He's always participating in them, and hopefully he'll continue to participate because he's very artistic. We're going to be talking about the comic here more going forward, and hopefully get some input from him on that, as well as he's designed quite a few patches already with kind of the based off of what, you know, the conversation going on over at Gun Channels.
Yep, he's definitely a great guy. I like Moon a lot. He's got an interesting sense of humor. He's also, you know, just personally for me, we had a couple of guns there for a while that we actually owned in common, and was very helpful in trying to address some issues and things like that. So I think he's an outstanding member of Gun Channels, and I'm glad he's here.
Yeah, I like Moon. He's a good guy. In fact, I think he's over in the lobby right now. At least he was when I first jumped. Yep. He's sitting all on mute so he can hear me talk about him. Yeah, Moon's just sitting in the lobby all by himself since I'm here on the Daily Gun Show. So he's always around in the afternoon. Brings a lot to the table.
Yep.
And the autoloader Instagram is just awesome. He's got tons of really good pictures.
Well, yeah. you know, we often talk about how people come to gun channels from different parts of the tree of being a gun enthusiast, and one of the things that he does quite well is the whole photography of firearms that he is very good at. Whether it's professional or just a hobby or whatever, I have no idea, but he just does a really, really good job, and he always has, long before there was a big push for Instagram.
There was a before Instagram?
Hard to imagine.
Maybe.
Was that in the long time ago's? Or the long ago's?
If there was a time before Instagram, people didn't know about it because nobody was taking pictures of anything yet.
I have never seen a picture before in my life until Instagram started.
So speaking of pictures, a lot of times they would take one of them pictures and they would stick it onto a piece of paper, and then they would put it in the mail and mail it to you in the form of a magazine. So where are we taking this gun magazines topic?
Yeah, do we want to talk about the trends, where it was, where it is, where it might be in the future?
Or if you just want to talk about good ones.
Exactly.
Maybe give some ideas, because I'll start with that and throw out that I really like Handgunner. That's one of the ones that I'm subscribed to. And, you know, I know people might be like, oh, magazines, it's, you know, dated material and stuff. And I get that there are some shortcomings, right? Because if something's happening right now, you see it on the internet first or whatever, and you get involved. And then like a month later, it's like, oh, Obama passed a thing. It's like, yeah, that's old news. I heard about that a long time ago. But I travel a lot for my work, and I'll tell you, reading a magazine when you're sitting on an airplane or sitting in the airport is pretty darn entertaining. So they've gotten me through a lot of flights. So, but that's one of the ones I like is Handgunner. It's got a good mix of some different stuff.
So you're
there's always that's always the first thing I read.
You're talking about like your situation where you fly or whatever, and whatever reason it's handy for you to have the paper magazine like that. I didn't really think about it that way, because I don't do stuff where I need, or like a paper magazine would fit the bill for like a need I have. For me, when I have a downtime, I can flip on the internet usually. So I never really thought about that. But there's got to be a lot of professions, a lot of things that people do that just are away from internet signal, or just they're not phone people or internet people, and depend on those as their like gun channels.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. And
doctor's office, or getting your car worked on. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we all have in common. That's half hour here, 20 minutes there, 45 minutes somewhere else.
Yeah, that's actually maybe a side note is, have you ever thought of, let's say you do have magazines, you know, after a while, basically what I've been doing, I'll read them, and then a lot of times I take them up north, and that's kind of a similar thing. Internet doesn't exist up there, and sometimes we have two channels on the TV because we don't have a satellite or nothing. Like, that's just over the air with the little rabbit ear thing that converts it to digital and all this crap. But anyway, so magazines are nice, especially if it's like raining up there, because otherwise you're just outside doing stuff. But that's where I've been taking them now, and it's not too bad to reread something from a couple years ago. Like, maybe you already read it, but you kind of forgot what was in it. But what I was getting to, because I distracted myself, does anyone ever like take those magazines into your doctor's office or your dentist or where you get your hair cut or whatever, and be like, hey, I got some magazines for your waiting room, and see if they'll like put them out? Because I think that'd be kind of neat to donate them to some place, because there's never any cool magazines when I'm sitting there waiting for stuff like that, like you said, doctor's office or some crap.
You know, I like that idea so much. I'm going to make that another topic for a whole show where we just talk about where to get rid of your magazines at to be as effective as possible.
And it's funny because you had mentioned where you get your haircut at where I go is to a barber, and so there's no women coming in there except women taking their boys to go get their haircut. And when I buy a magazine, because I don't subscribe to any currently, when I'm done with it, I go ahead and I just tear off my address off that little corner, and then I just swing by and drop it off on the coffee table that's inside there.
You just said you don't just subscribe to any, so how would they have your address?
Buy one. Go to the store and buy.
Yeah, so it wouldn't have your address on there.
I have a more important question. Where do I sign up to have one of these ladies take me to the haircut place? You said that they'll take their boys there.
That would be your mother if she took you for a haircut.
But there was some kind of like all-female Uber that they take you to get your hair.
No.
And that's and I hear you on that, just because I also go to a barber shop, but they don't have any gun magazines there.
Well,
So-
and I guess it depends. It's going to be, just like no two barber shops are exactly the same. I mean, whether, like mine has all sorts of hunting magazines, outdoor, doing stuff outdoors magazines, four-wheeling, trucking, and guns. So I think it depends, it's kind of like not every gun store has a coffee pot and a picnic table.
Yet.
Well, maybe I don't want to pull a Dano and start talking about a future topic like we've already done twice now, but maybe taking your magazines to a gun store to sit on the picnic table.
That's what I do. So that's why I was interested when you said that. I never even thought about taking it to other places, because at this point, so many of us take our magazines into the shop that and there's a bunch of people that I guess just get tons of magazines. I don't know if people bring them back, but maybe they do. Anyway, there's so many of them that they sort of just go, oh, okay, thanks. They don't really care one way or the other. So that's interesting. There might be some other places I could drop them off that, because I don't know about you guys. You get the NRA magazine, that thing starts to accumulate.
Right. Now,
Just throw it away.
it does kind of go interesting as far as, just speaking about myself for a moment, that, when I was first into firearms, back in the 80s, no, not the 1880s, the 1980s, I actually used to subscribe and get in the mail, actually paper gun magazines. And I think I had 3 at the most at one time. But then everybody who's listened to me for a while knows that I got out of them for a while, and then I got back into firearms later on in life. And now I've gone totally digital in regards to looking for my information, as well as many sources of information, rather than just 2 or 3 that are already 3 to 6 months old. I can get dozens of informed opinions, as long as I've done my due diligence about making sure I'm not just listening to Joe Bob, that the person I'm getting information from is actually, educated or has experience in what they're discussing. But I far prefer the digital source of information to printed nowadays.
See, and that's I agree with you as far as the getting the information, because you can get more up-to-date stuff or whatever, but there's something about like having a magazine in your hand that's a little different than like reading something on the computer. Like, it doesn't stress your eyes as much, and it's like, you can flip through it easily and stuff. I don't know. I think there's still a place for magazines, but you mentioned something about the NRA. That's another one that I get, and it's pretty good. I normally read, I'd say, at least 75% of it. I'd skip some of the articles I just don't care about. But you're like, oh, do you keep them or throw them away or whatever? I actually got from someone who had been getting them for a long time, just a whole stack of them. He was cleaning out the basement and was like, here, you want these? And I was like, sure. And it was really interesting to read articles about, like, when Obama was running for election the first time and saying these are the types of things he's going to do, and then looking back and going, oh, he tried that and failed. He tried that and succeeded. Oh, he tried that. He mentioned that. It was like, holy crap. Like, it's interesting to kind of, even though it's like a topical article, to think back and see, like, were they right? Or there was someone who was like, oh, that didn't happen at all. That prediction was wrong or whatever. Like, it was just kind of interesting. So there is some value to them, even if they're a few years old, and even if they're talking about something as time sensitive as, bills being passed or, whatever, some political thing, because kind of looking back and seeing if they were right or not is interesting.
Yeah, I've always just kept magazines for the most part, unless they're, I guess, an NRA one I don't keep around so much. But because even if I don't like an article now, I've had too many times when, I don't know, let's say you're not into 1022s, and there's all kinds of 1022 articles and magazines and stuff. You keep those things. What does it take, really? Some room on a shelf or a closet or something? And then you change your mind, you like these things, or you have questions about it, and or somebody else has questions about something, something that you can use, like you're saying, as a resource that you've already paid for. So why not keep it?
Yeah, and it's also interesting when it's the newest gun just released, and you read the article there. It's like talking about how awesome it is and blah blah blah, and then you look at like, okay, that was a couple years ago, and now they don't even make that thing anymore. No one bought it, and everyone thought it sucked. Like, that's interesting. I don't know.
Well,
I guess
that
it's kind of like
to it now, and it's probably always been that way. That the main articles, if a magazine's got so many main articles, and then even some of the side ones, I guess, are sponsored, either to the writer or the magazine itself. So yeah, they're going to be fairly positive and maybe overlook things that aren't great about it.
right. Or even if they just legitimately think like this will revolutionize the industry, this is such a good idea, and then turns out that like something else better came out, or it just never caught on, or whatnot. In fact, that's where I was reading. I think I was talking about this the other day. I don't remember what chat it was, but kind of like the Wildcat cartridges and stuff. And I find the development of different rounds like very interesting when you can get inside the head of the person that made it and was like, I really wanted, like a revolver round that had more power than this one, but was faster than this other one, but less recoil. And you see why they neck down a certain thing, or why they use this type of powder, or why they like. To me, that's interesting. I've never experimented with making up my own thing, and was a bunch of articles I was reading on that kind of stuff, and it's developing around and why they picked that. And then again, you can look back at that and see, did it catch on or not? And that's the thing. A lot of times those things, you have to have a very successful gun and a very successful cartridge that fills a role that's not currently being filled. They have to come out at like the exact same time, and people need to jump on board and buy a bunch of them, and then it sticks. And if not, they kind of disappear, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember that thing came out a little bit ago. Can't find brass for it anywhere. Can't find ammo for it anywhere. Like, can't find any guns chambered in it. Like, it doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, that's happened for dang sure, but I can also think of things like that 327, and it was like, oh, okay, another salty treat. Throw it on the shelf with all the other ones. Nobody really cared, and then all of a sudden there was a 380 ammo shortage, and it became more appealing again. So things can change that artificially, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. But anyway, that was just the only reason I brought it up was just for the stressing the reading something a few years old can be interesting for other reasons than just the words on the page.
Right, and that's kind of what I was saying. Like, let's say you don't even care about 327 Magnum. You just see the article, you move on, and then something happens, and all of a sudden, I think I want to learn more about this 327. Like, you can just go back and research it. So that's how I grew up. I guess we kept a lot of magazines, or at least some. And I'd look at, there was no internet back then, and being a kid, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but being a kid, I didn't have anybody to talk guns to. I'd go to the gun shop and, hey, can you ask me a question, or can you answer my question? And they maybe say, okay, kid, here's an answer to your question. But I certainly wasn't involved in any conversations my dad was having, or anybody. So, that's where I got all my info. Didn't have an internet to just go dig into and be able to look over the shoulder, be a fly on the wall for other people's conversations like we're having here. So anyway, so then the idea that those things are what got me into liking websites and stuff, because you can archive the stuff and then have it there to reference. I guess in the future when you don't after, or I guess what should I say? You can have the stuff there that you're not interested now, but then have it there to get back to.
Yeah, I didn't really read gun magazines when I was a kid. I mean, that's I was shooting guns all the time when I was a kid, but well, I shouldn't say all the time.
No, your mic's not working. And Smeggy, at some point, can you jump into the internal? Because we're saying secrets over here, and I'm not sure if you're just like not into it or you're not even reading it. And I don't know where Bob's at, but if Bob's around, because we're getting tight on time and we got secrets we have to figure out here.
Oh, sorry. Actually, yeah, I can because Moon dropped out of the lobby, so no one's even in the thing. So yeah, let me join on my computer.
So we lost Dano. So yeah, sorry, a little distracted. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. We will go on to the next one, I think, and we've got actually quite a few topics that we're going to be using in the future to go back to this. So I think what I was trying to say there was that gun magazines were a big part of what I started getting interested in the internet. I saw the potential there of having data in mass that you didn't have to like have, you know, a library devoted to old magazines. And then that concept that you can go back and discover stuff that you didn't know you were gonna like. While everybody's rebooting here, I think I'll go to the gun of the day. That'll give us some time to figure out what we're doing behind the scenes here, and we'll run a quick video after this commercial runs that I don't know when I made this. Back in 2009. So this week we've been digging back to some of the videos from back in the day, and we're looking at the Desert Eagle in 380. I don't know if anybody's seen one of these before. It's the little baby eagle, or the micro Desert Eagle, I guess.
Am I back in? Am I good?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
What about me? Am I good?
You're good.
You're good. Are we talking about jackets, or are we talking about something else?
I don't think so. I think we're talking about the gun of the day.
Oh, okay.
The day going here. So it's the Desert Eagle Micro Eagle, the 380.
Yep.
Little mini one. You ever seen these?
I've seen one at a guns at a gun not store, but a gun show. Thank you. I don't know. Am I having a stroke?
You sounded like you were earlier when you were a chipmunk, but it seemed to be fixed now.
But I've seen one at a gun show and I've handled it, but I haven't fired one. So whatever that lack of experience means.
That is kind of weird look. I don't know. There's something about the like the trigger guard or something, or maybe it's just because the barrel's so short. Like, yeah, that's kind of weird looking.
Yeah, see, this is one of those guns that I think everybody's going to look at it and go, nope. So, and that's too bad because it's kind of an interesting one. I'm not going to say that it's a great gun or anything. I just think it's an interesting one. It's all stainless, so it's super dense. You know, it's like picking up a little brick of steel. And then I think that somebody else made this gun first, and they just grabbed, you know, the patent or whatever, or they just started creating it and called it a Desert Eagle. I don't think it's their creation. But I think in this video I'll dig into taking it apart, and that's something that I guess is an aspect of guns that you don't get to experience for sure when you're just looking at them. I guess when you're buying them, maybe you can take it apart, but unless somebody's explained it to you, I don't think I took it apart. Dang it! So or maybe I did right here. Unless somebody's actually taken it apart for you, you may not know that there's a unique or different or interesting operation of it. So thinking like that Boberg. I mean, you can tell by looking at that Boberg gun, it's different, but you know, it's an interesting type of action or operation of that thing, of that machine. This is similar. It's got a weird little rotating barrel, so it's much like a Browning, an old pocket Browning. You pull the slide back and then you twist the barrel like, and then that unlocks the lug in the chamber sort of, so that it comes out the slide. But inside there's two recoil rods, which is just crazy for a little tiny gun like that. Just makes no sense. But anyway, I think it's neat when you take it apart. It's completely unique in there, or at least as unique as my experience on little guns. And just the fact that it's so heavy and tiny is, I think it makes it kind of neat. I don't have any idea what they cost. I never bought one, so they must not be that cheap, because I don't see it being very practical. It is too heavy. But
do you know how many rounds that held? We got a question out on YouTube about it.
I don't remember, but I'm guessing 6. Almost all these. It's just a factor of how many, you know, 380s you can stack on each other in a mag. And I don't remember. I don't know of any that make 5. Bob, you ever heard of a 380 that only has 5 in the mag?
I think some of the really early ones did. Well, I guess those were 32s though.
And then it's also got like almost a built-in sight, but weird sights for sure. Anyway, that's the gun of the day. It's the little tiny Desert Eagle. It's not around. I don't think they make it anymore. I don't think it ever took off. It was never really popular. I suspect it's one of those things that if you already invest into a Desert Eagle, you know, and that's your brand or that's your thing, you might buy it because of the association or something.
Yeah, just because of the name or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, if someone gave me one, I wouldn't throw it away. But I don't see much of a use for me personally.
Yeah, it looks almost like something you'd play with at the range.
Yeah, especially now that I know it's also very heavy.
Oh, it's definitely heavy. Look at this, that little car. That was my other one that I liked. Little 380 cars are pretty funny.
Oh, really? The little cars are nice. Dano would like to hear that.
No, I didn't say they were nice. I said they're funny and they're little. I like how little it is because it's a
Oh,
tree.
okay.
Got to be one of the smallest. I'm probably saying here like how small it is. It's. I would think the Desert Eagle, which is kind of weird. You wouldn't think that they make one of the smallest guns, but at the time at least, and even still, might be one of the smallest 380s because they got so much metal in it. You know, all the other 380s are made out of plastics and stuff, so they got bulk just to hold that 380 in. Oh, Dano's mic is dead again. So yeah, we're having some issues and we're trying to coordinate some stuff. So that means he won't be able to do that other thing then. Or if you restart, we'll just do it right away. Or she's not even there. So now everybody knows. Now all the YouTube people are going to they think they got some kind of jump on a tactical quiz probably. Because I think that's what we're talking about. All right, well, any other things about the gun of the day are going to have to go on hold because we're done with the gun of the day. There's Dano's back. But we're not hearing anything.
Testing.
There we go.
We hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm having all sorts of computer problems.
Did you get a windbreaker stuck in your router or something?
Something like that. But let me. Speaking of windbreakers. That's right. As long as my mic lasts, it's time for the tactical pop quiz of the day. Smeggy, have you seen the answer?
Sir.
And it is a two-parter today. Yep. So those of you listening, make sure you put both the first answer and the second answer both on the same line. Do not put them on two separate lines. So let me head on over to the question here. And the question is as follows. Smeg, if you can keep an eye on the YouTube side. I got YouTube. Yep. On the Gun Channel side. What was the last successful gun Eugene Stoner designed that is still in service today, and who produces it? What is it, and who produces it? Tick, 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 tick. Now, I do have to thank Dead Horse for submitting this question along with several others.
Oh, Colt on the YouTube side's wrong. His name's Colt, and he said Colt AR-15.
Either Gun Channels has died, or my computer is wrong.
I don't see any on Gun Channels yet. Yeah, it's working.
Sorry, 25 by the Navy?
That is incorrect.
The Navy does not make guns.
M249?
Nope. By FN? No. But thanks for playing.
What's the question again? Night Strike's asking. Oh, I don't give him extra. You should have been here, Night Strike.
What was the last successful gun Eugene Stoner designed that is still in service today called, and who produces it?
AR-5 from Henry?
That is incorrect. You shouldn't have told the question again for Night Strike. I mean, come on.
I know.
I mean, he's so awesome. He doesn't need... No.
I will say that
wrong.
The
at
M249.
least Remington actually produces firearms, unlike the Navy.
SR25 by Remington.
No,
Then not the 249 from FN.
No. And not the AR-7 by Henry.
not the M16 Armalite either.
So at some point we're going to give them a quick hint or what?
Yes, in fact,
What? Make them work for it. What the heck?
Half the answer has already been said.
yes, that's a good hint. That's better. I like that. Winner.
Nope.
What? No.
Almost.
Jumping the gun.
Almost the winner.
Night Strike's not even saying both.
Yeah,
You need
Night Strike's
gun
just coming up and
and-
saying the answer
There we
is.
go.
Okay. Okay.
There
now
we
have
go.
a
Scout.
winner. Scout. It's the SR25 Knights Armament from Scout. So congratulations. Let me go ahead. I also have a little bit more information here. It was by Knights Armament, uses a rotating bolt and a direct impingement gas system with many similarities and influences by the AR-10. So congratulations, Scout. You are today's Tactical Pop Quiz winner. You know where to head, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. To gunchannels.com/popquiz. Fill out the form. Put your first, second, and third choice. Thank you very much for playing. And for those of you that would like to submit questions, please send them to dailygunshow@gmail.com. Please put a reference to your answers just so we can do a quick verification. And thanks for playing along.
Yeah, and because Z is not here yet, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and say, Scout, you are today's hot shot of the day. And Sean, clean your ears out, buddy. He did not say what's the gun and who used it. He said what's the gun that's still used and who makes it. Everyone else knew that. You didn't. So quit your complaining.
We need a legal disclaimer.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Bob to repeat that.
And also, I'm going to throw out an honorable mention to Vroomtastic, because 42 by 42, I would have accepted that answer, but unfortunately, we already had a winner, so that's not going to win today.
I feel like we should have some straws made up that say Buttercup or something on it, and then we could hand those out to people that have problems with the results of the quiz. Or milkshake or a iced tea.
So, where do we go from here? I know
It's all
about
up.
15 minutes or so, we'll have Z joining us.
Let's dig into the. Oh, we can't do that, huh?
Healthy tip.
Yeah, I guess the healthy tip. So every day we try to remind everybody that the most important part of the gun is the part that pulls the trigger. With that in mind, we do a healthy tip. And today it is eat one plant-based meal eat one plant-based meal a day or one day of the week. That's one option to change your eating habits. If you are one of the people that think that you want to eat healthy but it's so difficult or hard or whatever, you think that a transition step might work, then that's one way to do it, is to eat healthy one meal out of the day each day or one day out of the week each week. So give yourself a thing like that to get going. And if you start to discover that you like, I don't know, some healthy place in town, and then okay, maybe I'll try a couple of things on their menu, that gives you that you've put it into your schedule, your rotation. And if it turns into something you like, you just increase it. And if you don't, you just explore for something new. There's more and more healthy places, healthy alternatives, healthy options out there. So the healthy tip today is to think about incorporating healthy food into your menu on a, incremental basis.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And you kind of just made me think of one as far as when you said like going to a healthy place or whatever. I personally tend to like get into rhythms and whatnot. So it's like if you find a healthy place, and what might be more fun is find someone else who also wants to go there. And like that's the day, you go hang out like every Wednesday, like that's where you go have lunch or whatever. So then it's kind of routine and you're more likely to do it, and you're with a friend, so they're more likely to steer you away from eating the chocolate cake.
And you know who likes healthy food most of the time?
In a bowl?
Chicks.
Yes, that is true. Because they want to maintain their figure.
Well, if you're looking for an excuse to go out to lunch with somebody, I'm saying,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to eat healthy once a week. Will you go with me? Works pretty good. Anyway, so what are you saying? The Matrix, what is that? The movie? You want to do the movie before Z gets here?
Well, I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
I'm just saying, he's never asked me to do the tactical pop quiz after you left. That's all.
Well, he has done the tactical pop quiz when I've not been here.
Well, yeah, he's picked up the slack when you left it laying there. Well,
Okay.
I guess we've been trying to schedule this one, but it ain't working.
Oops.
So I guess we'll just dig right into tactical quiz thing everybody shows up for the show for, except for not today because it's been pretty shitty. So every Wednesday we do a tactical quiz. I want to do
It's been
something.
pretty shitty.
The sound quality's been bad and we've been distracted, so I'm sure it's been a shitty show as far as shows go.
Hey, I put in my all.
I think it's been pretty
I don't have
good.
to take it personally. I'm just saying we do a show every freaking day. It would be great if it was an escalating exponential rate of being at better every day, but every once in a while we have a shitty show. This is one of them.
Are you saying the show sometimes is hit or miss? Tuesdays 9 o'clock.
9 to 9 p.m. I don't think so.
Oh,
I wouldn't, number one, have the audacity, but number two, I don't have the money to.
you don't have the money to send me a quarter.
I don't want to get into that kind of copyright hassle.
That is a shameless plug, Smeggy.
Yes,
was,
it
wasn't it?
is. It certainly is. If you haven't learned by now, shameless plugs are kind of my thing.
Yeah, I've noticed that on Never Enough Ammo's jets.
See how I did the theme song, and now we're stepping all over this thing, and then we're saying it's not a shitty show. I'm just saying.
Oh, your theme song is like background music.
Because I
No,
get
I'm supposed to
pegged.
get everyone
That one-
bumped up.
That one gets our show pegged. We only make a couple of bucks a month. I don't like to get
It's
the show
digital. I'm sure you can hit the start from forward button.
pegged.
All right.
So
Well,
we're gonna
what is the tactical quiz today?
trying to do
Yeah.
something a little different. Try to mix it up, make it more exciting. So today it's for a fabulous prize, and in addition to the free patch from the patch panel, and it's our show. So we're gonna leave it at that. So I don't think we have to do. Is there some law or something that we have to say what the prize is? Because I'm not totally sure what the prize is because I never got the damn show figured out. So we've been trying to figure out the what to do for the tactical quiz here in the side chat. It hasn't been working, so it's about half-assed. But Bob, what do we say to people that have a problem with our half-assedness?
Well, we tell them to suck it up, Buttercup. This is our show.
At least that thing works. We always have that handy, and that seems to work. So we'll go with that. Anyway, we're going to be doing a challenge, a tactical quiz challenge. There's going to be efforting needed to win this one. And I don't think we will have the answer immediately. I think this one we might need to. I don't think we're going to
email
put a time frame on it. Not so much an email. Well, I guess they'll have to answer an email. You're right. So to answer this one, you'll have to send us an email. And I guess I'm hesitant to say because I think we might have already tried this before. So there might be the answer out there, and I just am forgetting it. But anyway, whenever you come up with the answers, address them to Tactical Quiz. And today's date, which is, let's say 14?
15th.
3/15.
The Ides of March.
Is that what today is?
Yeah, it's the Ides of March.
So then I guess I should have mentioned the email address is dailygunshow@gmail.com. So you're going to have 3 challenges, and it's probably the worst tactical quiz ever because I guess with 3 of them, I was going to try to do more than that and then have the first person with the most correct answers. But I guess with 3, it'll just be easier to win. So we're going to give you 3 challenges. The first person to come up with all 3, or if we don't get all 3, the first person to come up with the most correct results, I guess. I don't know if they're not really answers. Will win. And keep having to scroll back. So then I guess we should have to put a timeline on it too. Should we make it Friday or next Wednesday? I guess Friday, because then we can keep it this week. So we'll say the emails need to come in Friday before this show. So up till the beginning of the show, 7 p.m. on Friday. The first person to correctly locate and link to these 3 events in Gun Channel's history, if that makes sense. So we're looking for some events in Gun Channel's history, links to the shows that they were in, ideally with a little timestamp right to the thing we're looking for. So everybody's
Now, if somebody can't get all 3, should they not even send in, or should they at least send in what they are able to get?
Well, yeah,
Yes.
'cause that's what we just said. If no
Okay.
one gets all 3 and someone gets 2, then that person wins.
Gotcha.
And if everyone's just shut this damn show off and go watch Matt because he's starting an hour early today, and we've just lost him, then anyone could answer just 1 possibly and still win. But we're trying to figure it out. We've got massively awesomer prizes that we're going to start dishing out. So we'll just allude to that. And I'm not sure if we get enough participation in each quiz. I'm thinking it might be the winner of each of the tactical quizzes throughout the week or throughout the month will get the patch like always. But then they're also in the running for the fabulous prize for the month. And I'm thinking that's probably the way to do it. But we'll talk more about that off air. But anyway, so if everybody's got the concept down, you've got your email set up. The first challenge is the show where Dano came up with store number. And I think there might be more than one answer to some of these. Somebody might find like the beginning of it, and somebody else might find the culmination of it. And I don't know. We'll have to decide amongst ourselves which one's the correct answer.
And I'm going to, if I can quote myself, I said, "And what's your store number?" That's
So
the
all you
quote.
can do is search for that on the internet, probably. So that was the first one. Where did the store number thing come from? The second one, second challenge is, damn it. Every time somebody types that, it jumps back on me. The
sorry.
coyote thing, the coyote show with good guy with a gun. And then the third one, if everybody's ready, will be Bob getting ate by his cats when he passed out. That might be the first time somebody passed out, well, from pills. I think Edge passed out before that.
Yeah.
Is that the one we were kind of worried if Bob was even alive or not, and then his cat jumped up on him?
To be honest, I think we were more than a little worried. We were pretty sure Bob was dead because it seemed like something was weird and he had doubled up on his pills. He's crazy. And then passed out in
But I
front of
took 'em.
everybody. Right. So anyway, that's too much info. Now people can find it easier. So that's the challenge. I don't know. That might be super easy because we might have talked about these in the past. But we're going to be starting a new thing in the show. We're going to have story time with Gun Channels, and we're going to talk about some of these things. I figured there are people joining us to listen to the show who don't know what the hell store number means or what hero spin or all the other crap that we've come up with over the years. So we're going to take a little time each week to reminisce, and it'd be nice to have the links. So we're making that a challenge. You'll win something and be participating in the big monthly prize, or maybe it's bi-weekly or something. We'll come up with something.
Well, and you know, I don't know if this is what you were thinking of before, but to tie in with another project that we've talked about before, as far as the Gun Channels comic and everything, maybe this would give some ideas, and we could
snap.
do.
Are you saying we should do the origins? They'll just give you the origin stories.
Right, exactly. Like have a
Channels or
I don't know what the word is, but yeah, something that's like, you know, the inside jokes of Gun Channels. They could do little comics about that, as well as have like whatever the main plot ends up being. It would be like the other thing. And that's a pretty cool way, actually, of getting people up to speed on what the heck some of us are talking about. Because I know it can be frustrating if you haven't been around and people are always on their inside jokes and stuff. You're like, what the heck? Why is everyone laughing when the dude says store number? I don't get it. Like, that's weird. So if you read something, you figure out what it means, then you're in on the joke.
There you go.
So you're helping the other projects out as well by participating.
right. That was our tactical quiz. So I feel like at this point we have hit everything in the topic. So has anybody's got any specific topics? We're hanging till Z shows up. Oh, that'd be a good one too. Maybe people could, in the chat room right now, Bob just threw in there, hug it out. That would have been a good one. So if you've got other ones that we could search for, actually that doesn't work. If we ask our people or the audience to recommend it, then they're just going to recommend the ones they already know they are. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if the tactical quiz is 5 different things, just because like you take one that Sean suggested and one that Moon suggested and one that's so they might have an advantage on one of them, but even with that, like I know of a bunch of them. I'm sorry I missed the internal stuff. I didn't know that's what we were talking about, but I might remember stuff, but I have no idea where it is. So I could still come up with ideas and not necessarily have an advantage.
What's weird is a lot of us are in all of those. Doesn't mean we know where they are.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So even if the audience suggests something, they might suggest something and then still have to go take the time and find it, because it doesn't mean they necessarily know exactly.
Diecaster saying it sounds like too much work. You don't know what the fabulous prize is.
Yep.
Am I eligible? Because no one told me the answers.
Yeah, these aren't things that are just like the answer written down. If we knew what the answer is, we wouldn't even do it. So yeah, I imagine so.
Because I want to win I don't even know what the fabulous prize is. That's how far out of the loop I am.
It pissed me off. That's all. That's just minor little thing. But yeah. Cheese.
Wait, I can make Bob mad and win a fabulous prize? I'm writing my email right now.
So,
what about that sports team? So, if we have any other questions coming in, we're kind of waiting for Z.
No.
Yeah, there's a question from on the YouTube side from Rock Humper. Should I refinish my K31 or any surplus guns, and if so, why or why not?
Surplus guns. So when you're just done with the war, my grandpa used to tell me that 1911s were like $5. You could get, guns that didn't even make it out of the country. They were still, produced, packaged, but the war ended. They just never went anywhere. So they were selling those kind of surplus guns. Basically, virgin guns never even been taken out of the Cosmoline yet. Right after the war, when those things are plentiful and there's not options, this was back in the 50s, 40s and 50s. So it's a long time ago. There was fewer options for hunting stuff. There was the massive baby boom and suburban sprawl and growth, and everybody was happy because the war was over. So anyway, there was a lot more hunting, I imagine, or at least a renewed interest in it. So sporterized guns, I'm not saying it was a good thing or a bad thing, but that's something that happened, and that's a different circumstance or a different time than now. So you're talking a gun that somehow was made or used in one of the wars and then somehow imported or brought back and exists here now. There's a finite resource. So for me, hell no, don't be sportrizing nothing anymore. This isn't the days of inexhaustible piles of these guns. And I know there's people that'll tell me I'm wrong because there were millions of these guns made, but the old jalopies or whatever they call those cars where they would take off the fenders and everything because the cars were cheap and nobody had any interest in them. Those original cars are worth a fortune now because everybody screwed with them. Right. So I think at this point, if you want a sporterized gun, there's a billion sporterized guns. Go buy one that isn't exactly what you want and fiddle with it all you want. It's already been fiddled with. But to mar up a brand new one, I think it's dumb. I don't think it's worth it. I think grandkids.
What used to be hundreds of thousands or millions of a particular firearm, or maybe several firearms, locked away in some government cavern someplace, is now the vast majority of those have been dispersed to individuals around the world. So it's the law of supply and demand. There's no longer millions sitting just waiting to come over to us of those old, World War I, or even the ones that made it in World War II, bolt-action rifles, which is why Mosin Nagants, one of the reasons why Mosin Nagants have come up in cost. Are they still readily available? Sure, but they're not as readily available by the mass, by the millions as they used to be, which is why you can't pick up one for $69 anymore.
Right. Well, and that's I agree with you as far as the sporterizing thing, but I think the original question was just refinish. So I think he still wants to keep, the look, like it still would have all the same stuff, just whatever, maybe sand down the stock and resand it, or refinish it, or put like a new stock on it that's looks the same as the old one or whatever. So from that point of view, I don't know. I think my answer would be maybe. Like if you want to shoot the thing and it's so beat up that it's not fun to shoot 'cause it's got like a big chunk out of it that digs into you or something, then yeah, maybe. But at the same time too, that adds character and that's kind of cool. So there's your non-answer answer.
Yeah, I look at it this way. If it was a rifle that was like could have been wartime, then no, I wouldn't touch it. Like if you got something that was made in 43 or 39 or 41 or whatever, something that was made during the war years, even if there wasn't a chance it actually got overseas and saw action, I wouldn't touch it. I'd leave it the way it is and enjoy it as a piece of history.
Z.
Yo. What's the question?
What was the question? Whether or not you should
Sporterize.
No,
E30
refinish a surplus gun, not necessarily sporterize.
Right.
refinish, you might as well sporterize because now
Well-
you're taking it away, right? Taking away its original value.
No, I'm already going to say that those are two different things. Sporterizing and refinishing are two different things.
Yeah.
For
Is there-
example,
Each roadshow where
my
they were like,
tanker. Well, sometimes you can still retain value with refinishing, whether if you sporterize, sometimes that will destroy the majority of any value. But for example, the tanker. It's a Franken gun to start with, but the receiver and the beginning of it comes from 1944. So
But you bought it that
I
way.
plan at some point. I did buy it that way, and at some point, I also plan on sending it off to a place that does refinishing, and I'm going to get it basically refinished and back to almost brand new, like is what my plan is. So refinishing, I think. Now, here's the thing: are we talking about to be able to still use it, or is it literally going to be like a wall hanger, or a safe queen, or a conversation piece?
Well, from the question, I guess maybe I just read into it. I thought it was to use it.
Well, if it's to use, I would like to have something that I feel comfortable in using, especially if it is an old-timey. I'd like to know. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to refinish a Colt, but I'm going to make sure that it's as in good a working order as I can. But would I go refinish a Spanish Mauser? Probably not. Would I refinish a Garand that I knew was from World War II? I would probably not. My tanker to me is different because it's already been Frankensteined.
Right.
But if it was an actual Garand that I know saw some action or something, nah.
Yeah.
I'd probably want to shoot it on like the 4th of July, maybe Memorial Day and Veterans Day kind of a thing, you know.
And it goes
that
back,
might be.
it kind of goes back to what G mentioned earlier. There are already enough modified, whether you want a Garand or a Spanish Mouse or whatever, already out there. To the idea of destroying its value is greater than just the individual parts. It has a historical value that is beyond just a firearm.
And technically that raises every day because every day somebody's ruining one or losing one or breaking one.
Yes.
Well, here's the other thing, though, gentlemen. Value is subjective. What is valuable to one person has less value to somebody else.
Well,
The whole thing of whatever the market will bear, that's why they say that. It's because somebody might be willing to pay through the nose for something that's untouched or whatever. And you know the phrase, there's a sucker born every minute. So there might also conversely be out there somebody wanting to buy one that's all bubbed.
That's true for an individual, but the law of supply and demand will determine the general market. But you're right. For an individual, you're correct.
Well, no, I think that's a good point. In fact, I'm trying to figure out where we can stick this on the schedule, because how do you value? You can say that this doesn't matter. This is my gun and I'm going to do whatever I want, and that the value to you is XYZ. And that is ultimately true from your perspective, but you can't deny that if that gun is, everyone else on the planet values that gun at $100,000 and you think it's just grandpa's shitty gun from the garage and you ruin it, you can't suggest that you're not ruining the $100,000 in everybody else's eyes, right? I mean, I think that's what Daniel said. Like, the market is the market, and if 16
well, no, with that, I definitely think we should add it as a subject. But if you are deaf enough not to listen to somebody trying to give you $100,000 for something that you think you were just gonna bubba anyway, you're probably just gonna bubba it. So I definitely think that's a good subject for in the future.
I mean, right? I think it comes down to probably how beat up it really is. And I would say if there's just some minor like nicks and like scrapes or something, or maybe like a little chip here and there, then no, because that does give it character and it's probably worth more in its original condition. But if it's like really super beat up, it might be nice to have one that actually looks like it's supposed to. I'm not saying Bubba Sporterize stuff. I'm not saying put a red dot on a freaking Mosin or something, but like,
but you're getting it back to its original look or something.
Yeah. And I think of, some old car that's all rusted out. Like, if you strip the paint and put new paint on, body fill some stuff and put paint on it, now it looks really nice and it's an old car. That might be worth more than one that's just completely trashed, but technically it's not original paint job anymore. And so, some people will say don't repaint it. Some people say yes, repaint it. And I think the same thing goes with guns.
Now, Smeg, to your point, I want to extrapolate that a little bit, because that is a perfect analogy. I don't know if any of you guys watch sometimes when they do auctions on the muscle old cars and stuff like that. The deal is like, yeah, have an old found in a barn, able to wash it and run it up there with a coat of wax on, and that's one thing. There are guys that painstakingly restore and refurbish, and they try and use the original parts where they can. They try and use the original choices in paint color when they can. Sometimes they're trying to reuse original type materials for when this thing came out, whatever, for the car. So if you're doing the same thing to some particular type of firearm, how is that bad if you're trying to restore to its original shape?
Because what if you want if the person who is putting value on it wants it from unaltered from the war, then anything you do to even washing it and stuff.
Well, then they should have bought it before I did then.
Yeah, you have to look at the thing that it's your own personal property. You can decide what to do with it one way or the other. I mean, that's, part of freedom. But it's like taking.
But like, okay, so do you say there's a single action and it was for some reason it was somebody that was on the Monitor or Merrimack or something like that during like the Civil War, and somebody found it out of the water, and it was all rusted to shit, right? But through actual scientific restoration means, they were able to restore to original or near original. You can't say that the lump piece of rust that it was with rotted wood, once it actually gets restored, it has more value as the restoration than it did as the rusted lump.
Not necessarily.
You know what I'm?
No, not necessarily.
Yes.
You're talking. No, not necessarily. So if you're talking about that particular gun that was used in something found crusted over with stuff from the water, that is the story of that firearm, that item. Now, if you're talking about it's the first whatever it was, the first Winchester or something. There's only one known one, and you're bringing a second one onto the scene, maybe. But if you're talking about a gun that's fairly common, that was made in thousands or more, and there are existing pristine copies or reproduced copies already in museums, you've taken history, altered it, just so that you can look at what it kind of looked like before. And I don't think that's necessarily greater value. It might have more value to some people, but I think it's debatable. And I'd personally be more interested in seeing I like looking at old West guns that people bring out of the desert as is. The big rusted lump of metal.
I definitely hear what you're saying, but a lot of the times it's those museums are the ones that they are either getting it donated or provided to them, and they are the ones that, you know, through their programs or whatever, are the ones doing the restoration. So it's more of a display piece, and it does usually end up with more value.
Well, not, yes,
when they trade it to another for another piece and stuff like that.
There's a huge difference between a restoration and Bubba in the backyard.
No, there's a difference.
You know what? I do agree that it's only original once. I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that.
The condition it became, and then there's a difference between the best restoration job. We're talking Smithsonian level. This is back to factory factory condition. That is a different gun. You've altered history. You've taken something that went and became this and changed it back to what it could have been or what it started from. That's altering history. Yes. That doesn't bring more value to me. Unless, like I said, maybe the one of the sample of that item. That's like the only one. Well, maybe you do need a sample set for reference. But if it...
I'll also agree with Robbie. Refinishing is not restoring.
So... I think we're going to talk about that.
What was the original gun? Did we actually have an example of the original gun when we started talking? When you guys started talking about this, or
the original question was, should I refinish my K31? And then he said, or any other surplus guns, why or why not? And I don't think there's a definite yes or no, but I do think there might be some guidelines. And I certainly agree with G-Webs as far as, like, especially if it was an historic thing, like this is the exact gun that, you know, so-and-so general was carrying. Yeah, you're not gonna freaking, you know, Duracoat that thing or whatever. Like, that's, who cares if it's beat up? That's what it should be. But you know, surplus gun like the K31, it seems like, I don't know, there's a handful of them now still. And if all you're doing is stripping the finish and putting more stain on it and then, you know, sealing it, then that's definitely different than bubbaing. I'm not sure where, you know, bubbaing it or sporterizing it even came from, because that wasn't anything to do with the first question. But yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with refinishing something.
Changing
as that question goes, if we're talking about a K31, I personally no problem in refinishing the wood, and or potentially if you wanted to refining the metal, let alone if you're utilizing it for an important purpose. I might make sure that all the components were, I don't want to say buffed, but, you know, and at least cleaned up or something.
Well, I definitely,
especially 31 and talking surplus rifles, you know, no, I think that would be totally fine if that's what you want. If you want it looks period correct and you know that there's a story there behind it or whatever, and it's your own very museum piece, well, then do that too. But I mean, K31, because you want to go out and shoot long range and it's a cheap way to get into or something like that, you want to try and either have it look nice or work well, or dare I say it, accurate. I don't see that being a problem on something specific like the K31. Opinion.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and reiterate it from the historical point of view, which is where I come from, or what I refer to. I like looking at a historic gun. Cleaning it and refinishing is that there's no difference between that and bubbifying it. I mean, physically there's a difference in preference or whatever, or use, I guess, but in real life, you've taken something that was historic and then altered it. So even if you're taking it back to just cleaning it and polishing off the stock and sealing it, like you're saying, well, that's got a bunch of polyurethanes and oils and stuff in it that weren't there, and it's no longer historic gun. Now it's just
Well, that's what you're saying is a good illustration of how value is determined by the end user, or the end purchaser in this case. Am I breaking up?
I think we all are. I heard you fine there, but
Yeah, I know you were fine, Dano.
but earlier I was breaking up and stuff too. So I just think the internet's is dying today.
well, that's snow. Well, that's snow. That's what I'm blaming. And Hillary Clinton.
That's true. It's probably Hillary. She's probably trying to wipe her new servers.
All right. Well, I think everyone's been waiting for our movie of the day. Every day we try to feature a movie that is gun related that maybe you haven't seen in a while, or if you're a youngin', a movie we hadn't seen yet. And today we're talking about The Matrix. I think a movie that literally was game changing.
One of the best frickin' movies in modern times. That's all I can frickin' say.
Is the one where the two dudes ended up in the two that are sisters?
Whoa, I don't know. We were talking about The Matrix.
Dudes or sisters? What the hell are you talking about?
I don't know, man.
The Wachowskis, dudes, and now they're not.
I think he's saying the people that directed it were brothers, and then they've both had sex change operations, so now they're both chicks, so they're sisters.
Correct.
He said that's
crazy.
It's beyond our Matrix is. I just don't remember supposed to take the blue or the red pill. Remember?
That movie was so iconic in terms of what is reality. How do we define reality? What is your reality the same as mine as we both understand it? Or are they in fact two very different things?
Well, and that's the thing is, how would we even know if we were all like, we could all be living in virtual reality right now, and we just wouldn't know. That's been talked about. Scientists have talked about that there's no way to actually prove we're not, because if the technology was great enough to make us believe this, then we'd believe it.
I mean, in some ways, it was like I don't know how much the movie cost to make, but it was like a Twilight Zone movie, sort of, as far as what is real and what isn't. And then, of course, going beyond that, there were some ultra fantastic special effects. The ability of as far as the gunplay throughout the movie was just, it was fantastic in so many different respects. Other than repeating just glowing words, I'm almost not sure where to start or where to end on how wonderful this movie was, in my opinion.
I really like it. Go ahead, Bob.
That's okay. I'm guessing we know how Dano's going to vote. I thought it was okay. I wouldn't say it was the greatest movie in the world, but it was an interesting concept, and it certainly made you think. So I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up.
Well, I thought the example of them running through that hallway and shooting in slow motion. I think they were the first to, at least the first big budget, to do that deal where what do? They run a camera on a circular track while somebody's doing something, so that they can get that weird freeze frame effect.
Yeah, the bullet time.
They have 1,000 cameras in a circle, and they take them all at the same time or something or they take repetitive pictures or something, so that then they can use software to make it, give you that. Anyway, they were doing some visual stuff that I thought was amazing, like the helicopter hitting the side of the building, and the whole trying to convey that it's changing, that where they're rippling reality.
The ripple.
Yeah, all that stuff was really just super awesome. Plus, it was super gun. They could have done all of that with something stupid. They chose to do it with guns and stuff. So I thought that they really brought guns and stuff to the mainstream movies in a cool way. That was kind of. So anyway, I like the visual aspect of it, how they kind of changed the direction of movies going forward, and the whole science fiction end of it was really neat. I don't remember another movie where it went that crazy into a real nerdy science fiction plot and everything. So I thought it was great for lots of reasons.
Getting into the blue pill, red pill for just a moment, I think that has relevance today in regards to, we talk about that we have 2 groups in society, the one that talks about facts and the one that talks about feelings. And we all know how we can extrapolate that, but when I think blue pill, red pill, that's exactly what I think of.
Like whether you're ready to accept reality or just be placated.
Yes. Don't
Like
tell me-
Cypher,
don't
just
tell
plug
me-
me back in. I don't want to know. I don't want to. Just plug me back in.
And even a couple of there was, I can't remember the whole movie now, but that one guy, he was already unplugged, and he was so interested in getting back plugged in, changing his status when he got plugged back in, that he was willing to be a dick in real life, right?
Right, because reality,
Yes.
reality.
That's when
sucks
he's
so
having the
hard.
red wine and the awesome stick.
He very much reminds me, in character as a drug addict. He much prefers being high, being in that other non-reality reality than the world that we actually live in.
Well, you do remember the world they lived in was pretty bleak and shitty.
No, I understand that, but the world the world we all live in today and consider reality, a drug addict on the street that has no place to go is living in a pretty shitty world. Now,
I think Dano mostly liked that movie because think of how much training Dano could do if it was Matrix style.
No
oh
kidding,
man,
eh?
where do I
I
go for that?
Buy a helicopter? You can now.
Now,
I just thought that it was somewhat unrealistic with the use of 9mm movie.
hey,
Do we really?
It was only got interesting when they started using the Deagles.
Actually, they never mentioned caliber that I recall on pistols.
Well, you can
What are
assume
you
that
talking about?
just stop the bullets in flight, drop them out of the air, that he must be using that millimeter.
well, that or they were 45s and they just moved so slow they just kind of.
Well, exactly. 45s would be easier
Ag-
to pick out of the air than something going supersonic.
Now,
If
would
you
that-
watch them know that the agents all use Deagles, so that's 50 AE. So just get it right. Don't speculate.
Now, would that be one of the first movies that would use what you call gun fu, where they ran around across walls and stuff and flipped and did all that stuff?
There
But it was the first.
more examples, but I would say at the big screen level,
One of the largest budget to do it, though.
Yeah. As far as big movies, I think you're
did it
right.
well enough that people emulated it, and it's now a thing. I think
Yeah,
they
it is.
definitely were the pivotal, like the.
Well, and okay, so blue pill, red pill, all it is really to show the potential in body and the human mind and the human spirit. That's really all it was trying to tell you, honestly.
Well, I think it shows more than that because, again, think of the antis. They talk about their feelings. I feel it's wrong. I feel it's right. I feel. We tend to
Well,
talk
what does that got
about,
to do with anything?
well, it has a lot to do if you let me finish the other part of the conversation. As an example, we tend to talk about, well, what do the facts show? Not whether it makes me feel this way or that way, but what do the statistics show? What do the facts show? What do the studies show? Not how it makes me feel.
And that deals with the human spirit potential that I was just talking about. The body's potential, those things, which related to the movie.
It's more the grown-up versus the child thing.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, whether you're going to accept at face value what's given to you, or you're going to put it into a reference and find out if it's feasible or not. So, like, if it can even. Well, I think we're all talking about different things. He's talking.
I think so too.
The thing Dan was talking more about, like the decision, I guess, but I guess what I was saying is it's more the way you look at things. If you look at things like what's the result that you're offering me and then I'm accepting versus where, what is the cost of this? You're giving me this at what cost? I'm going to, I'm going to be perceiving this, but what is that in reality? That's where I see the red and blue, like whether or not you're just going to be placated and take what's given to you, or if you're going to be an overall real player in the game and figure out, what might not taste great, but might work best for the big thing, or what might not be the easiest route to take, but might be the best strategy overall. So I think that's another neat part of it, right? There was elements to it that obviously we're all interpreting it a little bit differently. Maybe even.
Yeah. I mean, you had mentioned, somebody had mentioned children, whatever. Children primarily deal in feelings because that's what they know best. And as children grow into teens and then eventually adults, then they roll into the world of facts. And what are facts based off of? Well, they're based off the scientific method and things we can prove, either prove true or prove false. And that's what I view as the difference between the blue pill and the red pill. Are you living in a world of feelings that dominate your world, or are you living in a world of facts that dominates your world and the way that you make your decisions?
Interesting. So we're all giving it 2 thumbs up, I'm assuming?
Oh, 2 double barrels up.
If we're all, I'm going to suggest a new thing then. If we're all going to be unanimous on the thumbs up part of it, then somebody on the Gun Channel side, I think, just said, maybe it was on the YouTube side. Anyway, somebody had just mentioned, Diecaster said, one of the best movies, top 100. So as opposed to, since just saying 2 thumbs up when a movie is of such significance, another way to rank it perhaps would be, is it in your top 100, your top 10, your top 5, or top 3? Like, is there some way you can give us an idea of not just how good it is, but how good it is compared to other movies?
Yeah, I'd give it top 50.
Okay.
Now, are we comparing it to movies of the same genre?
Top movies, period.
Okay, so top movies, period.
Maybe Top Gun movies, I guess, but
I mean, this is literally off the top
I'm
of
gonna
my head.
probably put it more at 15 or 10. I don't know. I don't think it would be better than top 25 for me, but
I was just going to go 20.
20.
It's in the top 20.
Okay, that's a better number.
I like a lot of movies, though. That's my problem. That's why
That's
it's
what I'm
almost
saying. It's
almost tough to be in the top 20.
And there are better movies, but I like to give Matrix a little bit of extra because when it came out, I think it really did a lot. We wouldn't have seen some of the movies we've had since.
It was a game changer at the time, for sure. For sure.
Well, and especially when you were talking about the just the actual filming of it. I mean, after Matrix came out, everybody and their brother tried to do bullet time. That's what they call it, where they have the whole bunch of them. They called that bullet time. And it's like, hell, it started showing up in video games and shit. What was that game where, like, that was the dude's special power or something? Like, you could switch to bullet time every once in a while and, like, run through the stage while everyone else is going slow motion. And it lasts, like, 30 seconds or whatever.
We were even thinking about incorporating that into the podcast. So stay tuned next week.
I'm doing it right now.
For myself, we were talking about the top 10, top 20 thing. For myself, I'd definitely be in the top 10 in that genre. And of course, it has a lot of very close competition, but because it also goes into other, beyond just, gunplay and the innovative effects and things like that, it has other aspects of it that I think are just very ingenious, which is why, for me, it does make it to that top 10 list.
Well, and when we were in somebody else's chat doing a top 10 list of sci-fi movies not that long ago, it was pretty much the top one, if I remember, according to the panel, but that's neither here nor there. That was a different show.
Do we get one from Smeggy? Or Z? I know we got Z.
I was going with 2 red pills up, and I was thinking like top 20-ish. It's probably in the teens, but yeah, so it's at least top 20.
Yep. And now, technically, Smegs, wouldn't the blue pills be up technically?
Well,
No,
the red
the blue
pill's the
pill
one that
is
wakes
going
you up,
back.
so I want the red pills.
The blue pill is
The
superior.
blue pills are the ones that. Anyway, never mind.
No, blue pills, you
Blue
go
pills
back to
put
sleep.
you back in the Matrix.
Blue pills are Viagra, so.
Oh, well, I'm not an old man, so I don't know about that kind of crap. My shit works off fine, no problem. But, yeah, because that was the dude who wanted to go back in the Matrix. He's like, I know what you're thinking. Why, oh, why didn't I just take the blue pill?
Yeah.
So that's how you can remember that the red pill is the one that wakes you up. And
Well, I remember it that blue is a superior color to red, but in the movie you want to take the red pill, so it's the inferior.
Now, what level of super chat gives you blue versus red?
That's the worst part. The dollar gives you the best color on Super Chat. How lame is that? Obviously, a bunch of bloods made up Super Chat. All right, so I guess that's it. We were kind of waiting for Z to show up for the movie of the day, and Dano stuck around because it's such an important movie for him.
Just for this movie. I love that movie, if it's not obvious.
So Matrix cost you a bunch of money. Good to know.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going into work tonight because I want to talk about the Matrix.
With that, I think that we've wrapped this one up. I want to first apologize. Be the first to apologize for episode 268. It was not our best show, although hopefully it was still palatable. It's
What did I miss?
not like we dropped it on the floor and it got all gross, but we broke the yolk. It didn't come out as
5
attractive.
second rule.
Oh no, we never do that. We throw everything away. We don't throw it away. We throw it to the dogs when it falls on the floor. But we broke the yolk. It's not the most attractive dish we've put out, so we apologize for that. However, we did have the tactical quiz. The first one to locate where the store number comes from, where Good Guys Coyote episode was, and then Bob getting eaten by his cats when he passed out.
Awesome.
Right before Friday.
I still say that Coyote had a collar on.
We'll be in the running for a not only the winner of the week, but then for the big playoffs for whatever our massive special prize of the month will be.
So send your answers to dailygunshow@gmail.com, and in the subject line put tactical quiz Wednesday 3/15 or
and
or
don't worry, you will not be competing against Diecaster because he's been crying about it ever since we announced it. 'Cause it's too much work.
Can you imagine how much effort this would be?
Hey, nothing worthwhile has ever been easy, everybody.
True that.
So that's one less person you have to compete with. So get on that.
Oh, right on.
So that makes
I'm going to
it-
look up on Instagram right now, hashtag Daily Gun Show, and see if anybody is out there supporting the show or if they're just all talking a good game.
Yeah, so if you got that K98, was it K98, K81, whatever the hell it was, the gun that we were talking about earlier, if you got a picture of one, or you've got one, take a picture of it.
Oh,
throw it
yeah.
on Instagrams, and give it the hashtag Daily Gun Show. Z has a great point there. That's one of the ways that we can use the social media platforms to help get the word out there, hopefully get some more people to listen to us, and ideally listening to us live.
All right, what do we got, Instagrammies?
And if you win a patch, definitely take a picture of it, throw it on Instagram, and use the
Nope, it's
hashtag Daily Gun
still-
Show and Tactical Pop Quiz.
I think it's still the stuff G-Web's posted, I think.
I tagged some stuff last night, but it's probably because it was like older stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I should have tagged this. So if you scroll down, there'll be new ones, but it's mostly just me taking pictures of patches.
I thought the new was always at the top. Oh, wait a minute. You had the Haas.
I mean,
and-
I'm new to the hashtag though. Like it's a post I posted a month ago, but then I just added a hashtag last night, so it will be in there. It's just not going to be at the top.
Maggie 42, 35 likes. Nice. Nice.
Oh,
But
30
anyways, I
I
think
think that we
that's
have some kind of competition with the person who can get the most likes on a post on
On a
Instagram,
daily.
our
Ooh.
tag, get some sort of incentive.
Oh, but let's yeah, I think so, but we also have to have it like there be a minimum, don't you think? Like a qualifier.
Oh yeah,
You have to have X amount of likes to qualify, and then whoever has the most out of all of those. So I guess we really got to get going on this hashtag Daily Gun Show, especially if we're going to talk about starting to give away stuff. So I hope the audience is paying attention,
indeed.
which they usually are. We actually have a pretty responsive audience, which is nice.
All right, so we do have someone jumping in at the last minute here saying, what is this? This is the Daily Gun Show. It's a podcast/live event we do every day at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, every weekday. And we get together, the 4 or 5 of us here, whoever shows up we got the whole cast right here, or the whole ensemble, what do we call ourselves? Panel. We got everybody here. Usually all of us or some portion of us are here to talk about 3 different gun-related topics each day, and then we have a series of topics that we address every single day. And the idea is to inspire and to encourage others to participate on the social media platforms out there with whatever their interests are, and ideally, if they are interested in the Second Amendment or firearms in general, to share those interests and those passions on those social media platforms with the other people in your life, your people from your family and your school or your church or your work or wherever it is that you hang out and deal with people on these social media platforms. In the long run, when the tides turn and gun owners are going to be looked at as some sort of negative thing, and they try to tell everyone how bad guns are, it's going to be a lot tougher for that message to have any effect if people realize how many people they know are interested in firearms and are interested even just a little bit in shooting sports. So again, we are doing this show every day to keep a conversation going. We talk a little bit about timely stuff, but more often we just talk about gun-related stuff. It's audience-driven, so we listen a lot to the live comments that are coming through, and supported completely through Patreon. We have a group of supporters, and everyone's invited to participate that way, who participate with as little as $1 a month, all the way up to $20 a month to get a patch every single month, or chance for a patch at one of the lower levels. And with that, a little bit of income, it pays for the little bit of expenses we have, and it keeps us interested in doing the show and encourages us to keep going. So that's a little summary of what the Daily Gun Show is. We appreciate you showing up. And at this point, we're ending episode 268. So unless you guys have anything else, we'll talk about what's on gun channels today.
Matrix rules. That's all I got to say.
Hold on. You are definitely an advocate of the Matrix. Do you count the other 2 as part of it, or you stand it alone?
I think it stands on its own 2 feet perfectly fine. The others are okay.
But do you discard the other 2? Because the middle one was in, and the third one ruined it for most people. So do you separate the Matrix as its own thing, stand alone, and the other ones are only associated with it? Or
Yes.
do you say it's so good even with those other 2 attached to it?
No, the first thing you said.
Because that's what I tend to do too. I'll ignore them. I
For a
understand.
decade, it was the only one you had for about a decade.
Was it that long, really?
It was pretty close.
Yeah, they certainly didn't need to put those other ones in.
And I'm sure, because I lived through that area, I think of them as standalone, where people today who, let's say, didn't come of age or whatever till afterwards, think of them as the trilogy, not necessarily as individual. Probably the same thing with Star Wars. They probably think of it as just, oh, it's all the same. Rather than, they came out with no necessarily guarantee of there being a follow-on.
For true. And a lot of people would say the follow-ups just sold out. I'm sure some people that were watching Star Wars as teenagers or adults had no interest in Empire or Jedi.
Yep.
Empire Strikes Back might be one of the greatest movies of all time.
By itself?
Yes,
By itself, as a movie. That may, because it has almost every important movie trope that you could have going on. It's got going on. It has literally something for just about everybody. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Empire Strikes Back.
Something for just about everybody. Never Enough Ammo, and he's on in about 3 minutes. So
3 minutes
early today. Normally he would start whatever time it is for you now, an hour from now, but he's starting a little early, probably because I think he tries to sneak it in early if he can, so that he can go to bed because he has a early job in the morning. But I think that's all we have tonight. Tonight's Wednesday, right? So there's that, and sometimes there's other shows. There's other shows out on the internet.
We Like Shooting, I think, has their double tap tonight.
You keep saying that, but then we also say that on Thursday because none of us really know. I don't know if they published it anywhere or if we've ever looked or verified it, but if anybody, the people that We Like Shooting, listen to them, can let us know. We can figure that out. But yeah, they do a second show, or they've been doing a second show, I think. But I was going to say, besides that one, which is kind of unknown, if you've got other shows that you listen to, podcasts or YouTube stuff, and you think they might work for the format or the platform we've got here, where we have the community and the chat rooms and whatnot. Feel free to invite them or send them links to what we've got going on over here, because Gun Channels is an open community. It's not, the schedule isn't set and there's no more room. The whole point of this new media is that we can do things on top of each other. We step on top of Andalusia Armory every Tuesday, and hopefully we're doing that in harmony. That you have the ability to go back and listen to the recorded show for whichever one you don't watch live. So yeah, Dano's got to go over to Matt's chat, and we should be wrapping it up out of respect for him, so we don't keep stepping on everybody else's shows. It's not like it's Tuesday where it doesn't matter. So
hey, we end on time on Tuesdays.
Yeah, we do. Well, no, we didn't yesterday. We actually did go.
That's true. I had to bail out for Hit or Miss Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
Because we couldn't stop talking.
That never happens to us. We never ramble on about stuff.
Well, we had a big.
Now you mean?
Anyway, so then, we got early watch tomorrow in the mornings, and then we'll be back same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, for episode 269.
69, dude.
We'll be talking about top novelty gun, and then Clint Smith in our training segment, and then on Thursdays we talk about whatever events might be coming up, and we got quite a few events coming up in the near future.
All right. Well, if nobody else has anything, we can end this with our quote. I just want to, before that, I just want to thank everybody and remind you to please thumbs up and subscribe and like. Anyway, this quote is by Louise Hector. Now I'm going to butcher his last name. Berlaws. Anyway, time is a great teacher, but unfortunately, it kills all its pupils. And on that cheery note, we'll see you again tomorrow.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.